This is Patrick Port with eBookHounds coming to you with another video interview of a best-selling author. Today we have Christine Nolfi with us. Hi Christine, how are you?
Hi, how are you doing, Patrick?
Great. So one of the first questions when we were reviewing your books, reviewing your bio, something that really stands out is you have 4 kids, you adopted them, and you met them in sweltering conditions, to use your words. So, to let new readers, fans, etc., know a little bit more about you, why don't you tell us the conditions, what happened, what went down, and how you ended up with 4 beautiful kids?
Well, I before I started writing fiction, I had a small PR firm in Cleveland, Ohio. And the only time I ever missed a deadline, I had to run the press packet over to the president's house, and his wife opened the door, and all of these Filipino kids spilled out. She gave me all the information on how to adopt from the Philippines, and 1 year later, I was on a plane, then I got off and went to an orphanage and collected my 4 children. Instant family.
Yeah, that is an instant family.
They had a lot of, health issues at the time. They were 3, 4, 5, and 7 when I adopted them. So it was a big change for them, and me, and my husband.
Yeah, I was going to say, had you and your husband had kids before?
No, we both were working professionals. We were in our late 30s, and just decided, if we were going to adopt, we knew we had to adopt if we wanted children. And we were getting too close to 40, and then it was like, okay, let's just jump and do this. And I closed my PR firm and raised kids for a couple of years, and then began writing with Second Chance Grill.
So, okay, one day, and I know it's not this simple, but one day there's you and your husband in the house of whatever size it is.
Yeah.
The next day, you fly back with 4 kids,
4 kids.
ages 3, 4, 5, and 7.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That's
it was a big change.
That's amazing. How old are they now?
Today they are 22, 23, 24, and 26.
I
had to think about
apologize.
that for a
I
second.
didn't mean to inappropriately ask you your
No,
age.
that's okay. I'm 55.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, out me.
And their names. What are their names? Your beautiful kids.
My oldest is Christian. My only son is Jameson, and then Marley, and the youngest is Marguerite. Actually, Marguerite married in August, and she married a young man that we met here in South Carolina when we moved, and he's from the same children's shelter that she came from.
Wow.
So two of the kids from the same shelter in Cebu in the Philippines are now married.
That's amazing. And it's that small world, huh?
Well, now you understand why I believe in uplifting fiction.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that because that's something that is absolutely your tagline, heartwarming, inspiring fiction. But I wanted to go a little bit more into the background of, when you started writing, why you started writing, and I think it looks like in 2004 is when you started writing fiction full-time. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And before that, you had a PR firm?
Before that, I had a PR firm. I was actually starting to write books. I wrote my first novel in college, and I just never took it as seriously as I should have. And then I would work for a while, and then I would write another book. During my 30s, I was trying to target the romance genre, and it took me a while to discover that my books involve more, not that they don't have romance, some of them do, but I realized that I wanted to write stories that dealt in issues other than simply romance. Not that there's anything wrong with the romance genre, but it took me a while to discover that I was writing closer to mainstream.
No, there's nothing wrong with the romance genre at all. We have a lot of our readers are romance fanatics, and I think that your books, certainly have some of that and crossover. So,
yes,
but you said you wrote your first novel in college. Is that right?
Yes, I wrote my first novel in college. It's I still have it. It sits dusty and unloved on a shelf.
Okay, so when are you going to dust it off and make the edits that a now, seasoned author can make to that novel?
Actually, Patrick, I was thinking that at some point I should just upload it to Amazon as a free book, don't edit, to let people see the steps that it takes to learn how to tell a story. Yeah. That instead of trying to clean it up, because I'm a different writer today than I was then. I think back then I was trying to emulate writers like Sidney Sheldon, and I'm a completely different writer. But it might be helpful to people to see, I would love to see Stephen King's first drafts. or Suman Kid's first drafts. So I've been thinking maybe I should just upload it as a freebie and people can see this is where it began.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of people would pay a lot of money for Stephen King's first drafts.
Yeah, I would love to see it.
So, you kind of alluded to who you're trying to emulate. Who are the authors that have helped you develop, helped you, figure out what type of storylines you like to create, what type of environments you like to create in your novels? Who are those authors for you?
Well, as I mentioned early on, Sidney Sheldon was a big influence. I simply loved his books in the 70s. Today I think I admire Suman Kid and Ann Patchett and some of the more literary novelists, but it's hard to say who influenced. I think I influenced myself at this point. When I finish a project, I'm most concerned with producing something that's better the next time out. So I don't really, I think it's harder to be influenced when you've written as many books as I have. I'm about to, my next book is number 7 on the shelves. And
yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, you're not in your formative author years anymore. Right. You are a formed author, if that's even a correct phrase to use. So paint a picture for us. We see you in the video right now. We can see Believe behind you. It looks very inviting. Your books are back there. I mean, it looks like a place that would be a fantastic place to write. Is this where you write?
Yes, this is my office. It's filled with plants. It's on the second floor of my house. It's very sunny. I live in Charleston, South Carolina. It's a gorgeous part of the country. And I finally decided, I had earned a pretty office. And so I did it up, and this is where I work.
It looks like a great place to let your muse in and write.
Yes, it is.
So some of the details that people like to hear about with their favorite authors is, are you a morning author? Are you an evening writer? One of the things when we were talking about doing this interview is you described yourself as zany, which is great.
Yes.
It's great. So maybe you're a whenever author, but kind of...
No, I'm like the Marines. I like to keep a fairly strict schedule. I'm up early. I produce my best work in the morning hours, and then I like to go to the gym at noon, and then I like to come back and edit, and then do all my social media in the afternoon. I can write at 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. I don't know how people produce at midnight or 1 in the morning. I've never been able to do that. I'm definitely a daytime girl.
Okay, got it. So we're gonna transition next into your books, but something that you touched on a little bit there, that authors who may see this video, it may help them. How many hours do you think you work a day on writing?
5.
5 hours, and then how many hours?
It depends, Patrick. If I'm at the beginning of a novel, I may work 5 hours a day. I'm not a pantser, and I'm not a person who has to have it completely outlined, but I have to know my characters intimately. And once I get into chapter 2 or chapter 3, the book starts to consume me, and I can work up to 12 hours a day. Wow. My family's used to this now. It may take me a month to get into a novel, but once I'm full steam ahead, I'm lost for a couple months until I've completed the book.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So up to 12 hours a day, that's amazing production once you're getting into the book. And then you do a ton with social media. I mean, you have 85,000 followers on Twitter.
I love Twitter.
You have a blog that's vibrant. So how do you fit that in, too?
Okay, full disclosure, I'm terrible with the consistency of social media. I go through phases where I'm very active, and then I go through phases where I'm not consistently blogging. Some authors, they have something new up on their blog every Sunday or every Wednesday. I lose that consistency with my social media once the work begins to consume me.
Sure.
But that's one of my goals for 2015 is to learn a better balance, and even if I'm in the middle of a novel, not to lose track of everything else.
Got it. Okay. Now,
so it's hard. It's hard finding that balance. And if you're a newer author, as hard as it is with the first book or the second book, once you have a pretty healthy backlist, you're always promoting the backlist as you're producing something new, as you're promoting the book that's just been released. you really do have to learn a balance.
Okay. To the books. So again, we're going back to that tagline, heartwarming and inspiring fiction. Tell us what that means, what you mean to convey to your potential readers with that tagline.
All of my novels center on the extraordinary moments in ordinary lives. They have a little bit of mystery, they have romance. I'm definitely somebody who does the mismatch with genres, but I'm trying to show the noble moments of people's lives. And I love using humor because some of my work is very poignant, and I know that it makes people cry. And there's nothing better than making someone laugh with something very funny, and then several pages later, you have them in tears. It's that roller coaster of emotion that I think readers crave. And I strive to produce that.
And the setting for your first 4 books is Liberty, Ohio, right?
Uh-huh.
Is that a fictionalized place, or is that somewhere that's concrete and real in this world?
It's actually Chardon, Ohio, in Geauga County. Even the pink mansion that Anthony and Mary Chance falls in love with Anthony Carini, that pink mansion that they live in that's described in every one of the Liberty books actually exists on North Street. Maybe I shouldn't give the street away. In Chardon, Ohio. Patrick, I've always been tempted to knock on the door. I don't know who lives there, but knock on the door and hand them my books and say, guess what? You're in fiction.
Yeah. Yeah, and that that brings up an interesting question. How much do you as an author draw on, bits and pieces of things you've seen, things you've experienced, and then weave that into kind of your creative spirit or muse that comes out when you have those 12-hour days?
I constantly soak people up like a sponge. If I'm at a party, if I'm in a group of people, if I'm in the line in the grocery store, I'm constantly eavesdropping on other people. I'm a great listener, and I take all of that, and there have been times when I wasn't even aware that I had remembered something, and then I start creating a character, or I start writing dialogue, and something that happened in the past or I overheard suddenly comes to life on the page.
Yeah, and I think something that we've noticed with authors, and it's something we've read about with authors too, is that you guys are the ultimate observers.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
That is where you get so much of your content, is through observation.
Yeah. People always ask, are you writing about your life? And I suspect that most authors are more interested in other people's lives than their own. Not that we don't have interesting lives, but we don't find ourselves as fascinating as the human condition and the guy down the street that tells you this heartbreaking story about his niece. And I think we are very observant people. And I think we're gutless actors. I think character actors and novelists have a lot in common, psychologically.
That's an interesting analogy.
Yeah, that's my theory. I'm sticking to it.
We will let you stick to it. So, 4 books in the Liberty series. The first, and just so that all the people who are watching, if they're interested in getting them, the first is Treasure Me. The second is Second Chance Grill. The third is The Impossible Wish. And the fourth is 4 Wishes. We got that right?
That's correct.
Okay. So why don't you give us a little bit intro into Treasure Me, where it's set, and who's your central character.
By the way, Treasure Me is now free internationally. Amazon just cut it loose on all international channels. You can get it free. You can get it free on iTunes or Kobo. So go get the book, everyone. The main character in Treasure Me is Bertie Kaminsky. She's a thief who's trying to set her life straight. I wanted to start the series with a character that would not be automatically sympathetic. I wanted the challenge of seeing if I can get the reader to connect to a character that most people don't like thieves. We don't like to think that somebody might steal our stuff. And in the book, she's searching for treasure that she knows has been hidden since the Civil War. And what she discovers instead is a sense of family that she's never had.
Got it.
And then that leads to the second book, which gets a little confusing. Second Chance Grill, the time period is actually before Treasure Me. So some readers prefer to read Second Chance first. Some actually say that it doesn't matter. You don't lose the thread of what's going on in the town. Second Chance has to do with Dr. Mary Chance. She's a young doctor who has a tragedy in her personal life, and she inherits the Second Chance Grill, which is a main feature of all the Liberty books. And that details how she comes to Liberty, Ohio, takes over the restaurant, and then decides she will stay there and set up a practice.
And does Birdie continue, or no, this predates Birdie?
Oh, yeah. All of the characters continue in all of the books. I keep adding more characters.
Okay. Do you ever, it's a sad word, but do you ever off any of your characters?
You know, Patrick, this is women's fiction, and people, well, I shouldn't say that. There was a death in Four Wishes. Don't make me give it away, but it wasn't a murder. Somebody, died of natural causes.
Okay, so women's fiction, nobody's getting blown away, nobody's getting concrete put on their feet and thrown into rivers, nothing like that.
No, although I do have Birdie's mother appear in The Impossible Wish. Her mother is a grifter. She's wanted by the feds. She's heartless, and she's a tough character. She's the Wish in The Impossible Wish. Her name is Wish Kaminsky.
Okay.
So she's not an easy to... She doesn't off anybody in the books, but it's a pretty tense book, the third one, because you know that she's come to town and she's trying to ruin Birdie's life.
So she doesn't off anybody in the book, but she's someone who'd be capable of offing someone, maybe.
Maybe, okay. But she's more into conning people.
Oh, she's
stealing
more of a
your
grifter?
last cent. Yeah,
Got it.
She's a grifter.
Okay, and then Four Wishes is the fourth one. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how that fits into the series?
Four Wishes explores Meade Williams' life. She's Birdie's half-sister. Birdie doesn't know she has a sister in Liberty. And you see Meade in the three earlier books, but you don't really get to know her well until the fourth book. And she has a romance with someone new who comes to town, Hector Levandakis. And it details their story, but at the same time it also blends in what's going on with Birdie and what's going on with Mary. So I wanted to take the main story points of the three earlier books and blend them all together in the fourth one.
Okay, so Birdie has, she seems like a depth character. She has, she went down a wrong path a little bit, and she's trying to correct and get off that path, and has things in her past that may make that difficult. Where does that character come from?
How did I create that character?
Yeah, so what inspired you to create that type of character?
I woke up one morning and I had this funny scene in my head of a thief dangling out a window. She's picked a man's pocket and he's trying to find her. She's climbed out her bathroom window and she's dangling there. And I have no idea where it came from. And I just jumped out of bed. I ran. The kids got up for school and they found me cackling wildly as I was typing. I don't know where she came from, but thank God she did.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. I think one of the things that we hear a lot of authors say is keep pen and paper by the side of your bed because dreams can be really valuable.
Yes, and when you exercise, I find that if I go to the gym or if I'm swimming laps, if I'm doing something that has absolutely nothing to do with writing, where I'm using my body because this is very sedentary work, suddenly scenes or a plot solution will occur, and I'm not even looking for it.
Great. Okay, so anything coming next in the Liberty series?
Yes, I'll release the fifth novel in... I didn't tell you about my two standalones. Did you want to hear about those? Well, the fifth Liberty book will come out in April. I'm taking a break to begin a new series that's more mainstream. It has some metaphysical elements in it, and it will have more drama. It'll be a more dramatic, and people will die in it.
Oh, no.
I'm not offing anybody, but it's a more dramatic novel.
Got it. Okay, so wait, sticking to the fifth novel in the Liberty series, that's going to be out in April.
Yes, next April.
Can you give any little teaser to your fans and potential new fans as to what it's going to involve?
There will be a twist with the new character that was introduced in Four Wishes, a young girl who was pregnant and comes to live in town. There's a twist about her background that will be revealed in book 5. And then Finny, who's the cook at the Second Chance Grill, she has a romance in book 5 that will give people a different way to look at her. because she comes across as a very funny, very tough character, and she's a 40-year-old woman who has, been down on her luck her entire life, and she has a very sweet romance in book 5.
Excellent.
With another character that I have referred to in the past, but you haven't seen.
Okay. And then the new series that you're starting on, which is always exciting for you as an author, I'm sure.
Yes, I'm excited about this series.
So tell us a little bit about that.
It follows, it's hard. I'm only 50 pages in. It follows 3 women. One is very young. She's 17 years old. The other 2, one is 30 and one is in her 50s. And they all discover that they have special talents that may help a disintegrating world. It's not dystopian fiction. I'm not ending the world, but I'm suggesting that it's possible that we may hold the solution to fixing the world, the problems with our environment, our politics, the pollution.
Great.
But I can't tell you any more than that.
No, and you know what? You did an admirable job of describing a book that is 50 pages in. I mean, it takes it takes oftentimes 50, 100 times trying to tell people what your book is about until you nail exactly what it's about. So,
but I know what it is, but I don't want to give too much away because I'm releasing this. I'm doing something a little different. I'm releasing this in 5 pieces of 100 pages each, and I'll release them 1 week apart. And I might also release it on Wattpad and try some of those different sites. I haven't done any of that yet.
Got it. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I'm trying something different.
So some of the people that are going to be watching the interview are going to be authors. And you also wrote a nonfiction book called Reviews Sell Books, right?
Yes.
And obviously that title is pretty self-descriptive, but why don't you give authors who, are considering ways to increase their sales and considering ways to increase their reviews, a couple of your top tips as a seasoned author?
Okay, tip number 1, start an Excel sheet or a Word document and get to know some bloggers in your genre. If you don't know how to find someone to review your work, go on Goodreads, find books that are similar to yours, and look at which book blogs reviewed that book. And then you can always go over to that profile, see who that blogger is, and then go to his or her site and see what their requirements are for queries. Send a professional query. Don't just send a 1 sentence, I wrote a great book, would you review it? Don't tweet out to a blogger, hey, would you review my book? There are a lot of very unprofessional things that some new authors do. And they need to recognize this is a business like any other business, and you need to act like a professional from day one.
Great. And then finally, to wrap it up, one of the things that's on your Amazon page, on your blog, is how much you love and appreciate your fans. And in fact, you say that you cherish their support and that you love chatting with all your readers. So, take a moment and talk to them directly and let them know what you want them to know.
I'm always there if you want to chat. I love talking to readers on Twitter, which explains the following in part. If you use Goodreads, friend me on Goodreads. I love talking to readers there. And go to my website and talk to me in the comments. And if you want to talk directly, I'm always happy to talk. I have a private reader group for women who enjoy contemporary fiction that's more uplifting, what I write. And if you ever want to join my private reader group, give me a holler.
Excellent.
Patrick, as a matter of fact, my beta readers came from my private reader group. So the people that now beta read my books before my editor ever sees them are women that I met that are avid readers that joined my private group, and they became beta readers.
And that's an exciting thing for a reader, to be a beta reader, to be there in kind of the formation of an author's work. I mean, because, you write it, but then there's still a whole lot of process after writing it.
And they're fabulous readers. These are women that read several books a week. They know their stuff, and I love them to death.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Christine. We really loved having you from South Carolina. Christine Nolfi, bestselling author. of Treasure Me, Second Chance Grill, The Impossible Wish, Four Wishes, all from the Liberty, Ohio series. She will have a 5th book coming out in that series, and then she's going to have a new series coming out that she gave us a little teaser about, and we absolutely look forward to it. So thank you very much, Christine.
Thank you, Patrick.
All right, take care.
You too.